Hello, Thomas. Here's an installment of things that happened within what I already shared in the first blather. When I got saved in 1992 and I began attending church, it was a very conservative church, extremely conservative independent Baptist, and the strong teaching was that you're supposed to give 10% of your income to God through the church, and you're supposed to give offerings towards missionary work. And I was right after we both got saved, we decided that my wife would come home and teach the kids. So we didn't have two incomes, we had one. And I had no idea how I was going to give anything. And so I started giving 10% of my net income because I just trusted God and He was going to take care of it. And the first week that I wrote the check and put it in the plate, it happened that just after that, I got a phone call at home or a message on the answering machine, and it turned out that phone on the answering machine after that first night when I went home totally confused and concerned, it turned out that somebody called me and wanted me to do some electrical work equal to the entire 10% tithe for the entire first year in one job. And so I'd say my faith grew exponentially at that point. And then one time we were attending church during that period of time, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I needed a vehicle. We needed a minivan and didn't have one. And we're on one income. I'm working single income, not making very much at all. And so we were asking God to do something. We didn't know what we were going to do. And I was looking at vehicles, and they're all too expensive, and I can't really afford them and everything. So I had an opportunity to go look at this vehicle, and it was more expensive than I had. It was too expensive. And so I said, I'm riding there to look at it, and I'm just saying, God, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't have this much. You know I need it. What am I supposed to do? And we pulled up to their house and looked at the vehicle and everything, and the homeowner, it turns out, had some work he needed done on his barn that I was able to do that more than made up for the money I was lacking to buy the vehicle. And we had watched a missionary video prior to this back at church, and it was called God Enjoys the Impossible. And it was from a missionary in Papua New Guinea. And he had stories of God's miracles in real life that had done among the natives. Like he gave us a story of a little boy in the group that they were getting ready to color Easter eggs for the first time, and these little kids didn't know anything about boiling eggs. So, when you put cold eggs in hot boiling water, well, they just split and all the egg comes out of the shell and everything. And this little boy had lost all of the eggs that he had in this little poor native community. And he prayed a simple prayer, according to the missionary, that he just said, God, heal my eggs. And miraculously, all of the egg material went back into the shell and healed his eggs, so to speak, in order to make Easter eggs, colored eggs. And so I saw the movie, and it was greatly... It moved me. It touched me. But then when I went to look at this vehicle I didn't have the money for, and I pulled up and the guy told me he had work on his barn that I could do that would make up more than the difference. We walked in the house, and the husband was a non-believer. We walked in the house, and there's his wife and her children watching God Enjoys the Impossible on their television at the house at that very moment. And again, my faith grew. So there was that God did in my life, helping me be willing to just do whatever He wanted me to do. And then with the boys, I said that when the girls were born, I got a vasectomy. I didn't want any more kids. I wasn't going to have any more kids. And then we started going to the church after I got saved, started attending, and soon I was moved to have a reversal of the vasectomy. And there was a heart surgeon and an eye surgeon that were doing it as a ministry for people who had changed their minds. They were strong Christians and were helping people who had also cut off children, so to speak. That's what God calls it in the Bible. And so they were helping them get their bodies fixed. And so I had that done in 1993. Remember, I was saved in 92 and called to missionary work in 94. So in 93, I had a reversal, and we tried and tried and tried. We did not have any success at all the way up through 1997. And it was in 1997 that I was offered the opportunity to go away to Bible college. And I would have to leave that government job that I mentioned, and I would have no idea what I was going to do for food, anything. And so when we were praying about it, we're thinking, okay, I guess you're not going to give us children, which is fine. I was not going to consider leaving my job and going on to a foreign mission field, having extra babies. And so I had no idea what we were going to do. So we decided that was over. And before we left to go to Pennsylvania, we had our good health insurance, and we had all our final visits and everything. And my wife had a pregnancy test because they wanted to find out just at that time whether she was. And the interesting part was they forgot to do it. And so after we were 6 weeks in Pennsylvania at the Bible college, we found out she was 9 weeks pregnant with our son, James. And so I never would have made the step of faith if I'd known she'd been pregnant before we left. And yet she was. But God didn't let us know. And in all my fears and concerns, it just turned out that God covered everything. All the medical bills. We had no insurance. We didn't have any way to cover everything, and God everything was covered. I believe He directed it. Of course, it was through things that were naturally in place, but the fact that it worked out for us, I believe that God was involved. And then we had the first son up there, and then we had the second son up there while I was in Bible college, and then when we got it together to go to Czech Republic, again, I said there were 6 of us, 2 boys under the age of 3, and 2 teenage girls. And so we just took off and went overseas with what we had, trusting God was going to take care of us. And He did. So that kind of fills in some of the stories related to the first section of a blather. And so I'm going to think about what happened further after we get there and get my thoughts in place and come back and give you a third installment. So thank you. Love you. Bye.